So I want to work on the data modeling of our population graph. I'm curious that we don't have 3 levels here, but that wasn't open, so we have to reload, which is probably going to change the results. Yep. So it was probably a transposition of arcs and spans. Oh, and does this always attempt to show population data if we would do something that crossed? Yeah, so that never even tries to do anything else now. This might be more general. All right. So let's look. And, well, there's the network data, which should be pretty straightforward, and there's what we're sending over. Okay, so that's default. So we can do a data search. Oh, why didn't you restart? Maybe it wasn't finished shutting down? All right, so we got data layer. We selected time because of that, and then we automatically turn on that because we had data to show. Okay, so this just came through as data layer. If I do, man, I don't remember recent lives. That might be too many. I forget what my old leaf names were. That might be too many. Okay. So just to pick one. Well, I guess we really want like a wide selection of people. All right. So okay. So at the overlay. So that's display results, and there's a search overlay. Is that? That's display results. Okay, so that is different data. Select points, matching lives. Okay, so matching lives. Is it data layer? Lineage lives is the one that uses that same thing. So if we do that, actually, is this a? Yep. Okay, so that's a color confusion thing. So that's also a data layer, which it displays in the same way. So there's that, and yeah, this wouldn't be useful population data, or it would cover a very, very small range, which, I mean, this has to be set to the range of that family. I won't tell you anything about the population, so we only updated the population when doing that. Okay, so data layer is this, and I guess I've linked, oh, search results doesn't have a, I could just clear the search. Doesn't have a layer. So then there's the fact that there are potentially a couple of things we want to keep. It can be a large list, so I kind of wanted to keep the start and end times, which means that there's a structure for that. I have anything to do, and we have that. We have timeline population, model.population. No, I'm not really doing anything else with population stuff anywhere. Let's see, if it's a record, just a type. Records can be type aliases. I guess it could also be a constructor of just a few fields. And population was data. And now do we mostly use this as, where do I use this? Do I use this? Okay, so there's no discrimination on when we do it. We just say if it's our top index, we do it. I need the range for, no, this is just the range of the timeline. We do list.head. Right, cutting out the first hour. Right, and as part of that to record the first time without, and then also just have the data that cut off. So usable time ends up being like the minimum. Well, okay, so there's the filter. And then they just can't rely on the timestamps of the data. Maybe I could truncate that ahead of time. Okay, so I don't technically. Well, the end time is one of the harder things to figure out. What I want to do is I want to see the total range. What I don't know, or it's not yet clear, is if it's going to be easier to do start time, end time, or a time range. Did I do more oval data, right? Like an arc or a span, did a start end. Okay, by itself, that should just be. Oop, I haven't moved this down yet. Oh, we haven't got a compiler yet. We had to run the map, we didn't have to compile it. All right. So given data, we can turn it into a population record. Do I do anything with the coders here yet? No, I don't. Hmm. So right now, and maybe we want to shuffle where this coding gets done. We just have the list POSIX int as our raw data. It could be an empty list. Well, we've got usable time, right? Which, that had a minimum value. If it's an empty list, let's see, is an empty list valid, or do we turn that to a other kind of remote data? Right now, I don't think we take any concern for that. That's only maybe that has a default. We could provide, well, we did a default start and a default end at this point. I could provide a default time, and the default time would just be like map current time or something. Okay, that's actually doing the usable time cutoff, which I'm not doing yet. And that was actually that was already POSIX converted. Is this just maybe with that with default? Now, I guess the easiest way to do this is kind of a waste. parity. Ah, yes. So there's the head index, and then maybe dot map. Double dot first. First, yes. All right, so this is only useful for... We only use this if it's an empty list, basically. So that shouldn't matter on this front. Are you just a straight up import? That's a default in POSIX. So you're going to be kind of the min of what we're going to use. Oh, I guess if we had... Yeah, if we had less than an hour, we'd effectively have no data. So... And yet, there would be... It would be kind of a min and a max from the original data that would express something about when it was. Well... All right, so max is just something we have to calculate, so we did the start there. I guess I want... I mean, this was, even if it doesn't exactly have a data point to express something about the range. There's probably a more efficient way to do the last entry. Because list.reverse does build the entire thing. It would kind of be like a recursive deconstruct. Oh! A fold that only keeps the last entry? It's not identity. We have the accumulator and the data. And we just want to keep... no, because it's type to type. Data accumulator to accumulator. But you have to start with something. Well, if we have data, then we have a time. And actually, we don't care about the accumulator because it's just going to be the most recent time. And we start with default. And that's from the left to the right, because that's going to matter for that. Step 1, step 2, step 3, yes. I mean, I guess we're deconstructing some tuples in every step that we don't really need to do. Oh, I guess I could just make you like default 0. And then run this thing through tuple.first. All right, and then actually, we could do this on the actual data. Okay, so that is actually breaking at the time because you have to compare it, and we had so this min. Well, we can convert that back to a POSIX. That's fine. And I guess we don't actually need you. It was just we're doing this stuff up here. Actually, for before that. Okay, let's dot head data. Maybe 982. Oh, we moved it to this format, which means you don't have the argument. Okay, so we lost our tuple.first. Maybe .map. All right, so that compresses a bunch of that stuff. So we want to convert our population model to that. And I'm going to need to probably need to expose all of it. We're not making it a private record. And then all things that use it. So model.population. Okay, so you should... Yes, this thing is going to need to know... Do you need to know the range? Or is it the thing that puts data in here that needs to know the range? Yeah, this is the thing. Technically, this is the thing that needs to know the range. That means we're not using a type as much, but All right, population. data. Hey, caps lock. Data value is a list POSIX in population needs the first argument. Oh, right. We needed a default time. There might be something else I could grab. You're only a maybe. Is anything not a maybe? Start time. Current time. We need, what do we? Yeah, you start at 0, so if we did this early, we might get something weird. But then what would you also use a default? Our start time is one of the things that's we were considered removing. Okay. There might be some other processing we could be doing there. Okay, that still works. Or rather, move some of it out of the decoder into that input. So, timeline, population. So if it's that and it's a remote data, so we're not guaranteed to have it. So I want something I can do as a with default, but I kind of want to make it a function so that it only executes if we actually need to take that option. I guess I just case the remote data. Well, with default's the right thing. Because it well, I guess we do this same kind of thing. I just have to pull all this out. What do we call this? I guess for now we do, just to prove that works. And actually I can probably even say that this is null, nothing. Okay. So that means case model dot population of data else. In all other cases, we do this. And actually, this is an else. Maybe I could have turned this into one case of like bool model.population. It can only be one case that would really do anything special. Okay, but there's more cases yet, because in this case, we want to do a range check. That range check is the min and max time of this, which you just times your POSIX. Do I have any kind of just like range intersect? You're an individual time. Oh, this truncates. Min I, max I, current time. Okay, yeah, that's used like for this knob to make sure it caps out. We don't have a like does intersect. And it turns out that maybe we actually did want it to be a POSIX. Or maybe a tuple. No, max A. And B, max B. Oh, these were like I versus T before. Range intersect. Actually, didn't I have... That's not going to be happy to compile right now. Might not have been an exposed function. Because didn't I have to do that here? Maybe I built it into some of the other iterations and things. Overlap. This is specific to these structures. Min, world end, span end. Start, max, world start, span start. Oh, this is the overlapping. Oh, this is the amount of overlap. Which sort of does it. It's a start time in range. The minimum of the ends, the maximum of the starts. We could just say if end greater than start, then they overlap. Okay, so the start is, I mean, just the min, I guess. Oh, min's the function. No, it's the maximum of the start. And the minimum of the end. And if end is, if it's a single point, I don't think we care for this purpose. It's still greater than start, then there's some overlap there. Okay, so we have a minimum and maximum. And pop dot start, pop dot end. All right, so we fetched some data. It still shows. Oh, and I think before we had data, which I don't have any way to clear it there, I had some color there. And oh, that actually overlapped a little bit. Okay, so this is back to that stuff. We go back to here where there's population data. It's a little bit too wide, but it's in range. It's showing that. And in our base case, that does kind of work. Here, I guess this actually isn't a separate chunk, but if we did go over a barrier, we'd have the break. Did I lose a reverse somewhere? Yeah, that didn't actually go to 0. Lone Ranger, thanks for the follow. And here I thought I was just copying working code. These are points on the timeline. So I don't think reversing it should have any effect because we should have sorted it. Why would our population drop off at the end? Because we're searching, I think, we're searching by births. So if anything, you'd have people who hadn't died yet at the end. Now when I was doing, like, up to the current time, just default search, seems to be fine. Oh, is it different when I'm doing this kind of search? This is searching differently. I mean, or it could be what's up to the end. So going off, so we hit the end of the data and it's burst to deaths to burst to deaths. If we're searching over space where we do have full data, there's a drop off. Do we get births or deaths in that time? No, that actually has to be bursts up to a point, and then we're actually showing this. Actually, if I do a smaller range, it might not overflow here. Range. Okay, I was able to process it. Okay, so it's returning 1321. Death time 13. Okay, well you were like a SIDS. Oh yeah, age. Birth time 1314. 2793. What was our search terms? So we searched for ending time 1415. Is Elm charts resizing to fit the data? Okay, so this should be our birth ramp up. Oh. This almost feels like it's reversed. But this should be placed by timestamp. All right, where's my usable time? Oh, you know what? My view is still truncating usable time too. There's not a reverse in here, is there? Not a lot timelines reverse. No. So we're doing a double truncation. This shouldn't be necessary anymore. But it was, I don't think it was truncating. Or it wasn't like reversing or anything. Yeah, we still got this dip. All right, so let's look at the full data. So basically we don't do this, and that will just be a no-op. Yeah, this drops on both ends. I guess I'm not specifically truncating. All right, so we've got... Okay, that's not dropping there, so that means I think that means that it's not forcing it to fit within the space. Can I get into the other end a little bit? Kinda. Yeah, so there's that end. There's that end. So it's not forcing it to expand into that space. We're definitely able to cut it off. Okay, I can see having the trail of deaths. We have the data, those deaths are in there. But if the search range we're using is from here, and we're searching by births, oh, this expanded. I guess you want to see, was this perchance the time feedback from the map, which, we can stop doing in that case, but there are other cases where we send data to the map. So we're tweaking our range to show that. Min and max, at least let's send, and min and max considers both birth time and death time. So it's not so much that we want to cut off an hour. Because when we're up to the last minute of current data, then that's not going to be an issue. I guess we want to go... Technically what we want to do is we want to go from the first birth. From the first death? No, on the beginning we just have to cut out an hour because we don't know who's there. On the end, we can go to the last birth. However, we don't get to use this more efficient way of doing it. Oh, have we already processed it into a population at this point? Because we could, if we had the deltas, we could figure out what's a birth and a death. Soft population. Yeah, and you do the cumulative sum. All right, so you are pulling out the birth time and the death time. That's just as positive one and negative one. So at a raw record, we want to know when the last time that actually does nothing if there's no death. We want the last time there was a birth. Which means we have to be handling this at a slightly different level. So probably the cumulative sum has to move up. So that you can see the pluses and minuses, and we would look for the last timestamp of a plus. The other thing that's a little bit weird is that we are changing the user's selected range, because in order to animate over the fade out. Okay, so it's POSIX int, so that still works. It's going to be kind of a different POSIX int. We can probably go back to that. So the max time we want now is determined by this. We've just been keeping... yeah, that just gets me the last entry. That doesn't work. That's a POSIX time. We do need the delta. And we need the accumulator. So the accumulator we would keep as... Go ahead, t-text, let's get compared every time. We wouldn't want to compare that, though. We actually do want the latest time, so it actually is 0. Maybe if it's 0, we have to turn it back into something else. Well, first, before we do all that work, if delta greater than 0, and... no, we just need the last one. Assuming this is ordered. Oh, we need the timestamp to the last one. And then this really can just be default, because we don't have to compare it. However, you have to get compared on both fronts. Oh, sure. Oh, max was not POSIX stimulus. And we have to do it back here. Okay, you did not get truncated. Oh, because we haven't actually done things. Okay, so we copied this up here, and then you are there, and decode. Has to stop doing this. Okay, that's a little bit much. I'm assuming we over-truncated. To pipeline this, we have to do the entire thing. I mean, that should kind of tell you if the ranges are bonkers. All right, min 3418, 34. That doesn't seem unreasonable. I should probably just auto show all these. Not this model. Sidebar equals and timeline visible. Yeah, so we're filtering them all out to be sure. All right, so we need to do min. The usable ones are between min and max. I wonder if this is failing and we're always getting default. And that's just not valid for the actual data. What if we did just make sure that it's always true? So we always pick a value that's actually in there, and it should be the last one. No. That is not sufficient. And our max is different. I'm doing the right test here, right? Oh no. This is filtering out? Now before or after, we're still not drawing anything. What the heck? Alright, the messages too aren't really helping. Okay, that doesn't seem to be doing anything to it. And yet we've completely broken things. Okay, I guess messing up my range. What the heck? When did it break? Is it one of those really unfortunate things where the only option seems to be get reset? Or is it actually something with defaulting these open that's messing it up? Because that's about when it broke, right? Oh, is this actually a missing re-render queue? No, because that used to work. We're not doing any filtering. Well, we changed our max calculation. But this should be essentially what we were doing before. Taking the last available time. Okay, well, the sidebars don't seem to have affected it. So the other thing we did What the heck? Okay, there's a sort. There's a reverse. Oh, if there's not a reverse. Are the wrong? Okay. But I'm doing that. I'm doing that reverse last. Is it a descending sort by default? So this is breaking my assumptions about the order of the data. I mean, that's for our data import, right? So we're doing this as the last operation, but we have to have data. We're grabbing this stuff beforehand because we need... Oh. So actually I need the first birth time? A fold R would do it. It's a messy iteration. You're making ordering assumptions too. So you need the last entry. Maybe this is a decoder thing. Even though it's messy. We did do cumulative... Okay, we've removed the reverse from there. Okay, now my min and max are reversed. That's not good. Oh, because I reversed you. I don't need to reverse you now because we reversed a pad. That's better. Okay, you don't... we're probably back at this. Large range. Yeah, so there's our fade out, but we removed all filtering. Right, we removed all filtering. Actually, our max time is probably going to be set right. We just said if true. So that seems a little weird. Greater than 0. Huh. Why was that already truncated? Because we haven't sorted yet, so that's actually just going to be the last birth. Well, the last birth and the last death. The last birth probably hasn't died, but we don't know that. Alright, so now we have a conflict between the times we're getting from Leaflet, which expand the user's range. Well, is that this? Oh, and if we, okay, so that's you, and then if we go back to up to the latest minute, that's not tapering off to 0, that's just really low. Also, what's, oh, is that my, I guess I had a weird setup for where my selection line is. Oh, because my selected time is off the edge of those charts. I'd never noticed that before. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's inside that range. So that's somewhat deliberate. I just never noticed the edge effect before. I also didn't notice this crash. Before we started filtering for max. Well, nope, I guess that's there. It does feel like a very different curve, though. Yeah. Because I'm filtering before the cumulative sum instead of after. This filtering used to be done after we had sorted all of the entries for the births and the deaths. So that alone could have explained some of the taper. All right, and then at other times that aren't up against the edge, okay, then we would have had the taper there. So now the problem, right, so overriding user's range. That used to be handled just because this was a different set of controls than this. Now we're using this as a way to select the range, and then the animation time is coming back and saying, nah, you want to see those people fade out, right? Oh, we got our sidebars modified. Get status. That's just removed. Oh, I wanted to do, we did if the range overlaps, not if it's a significant part of it. Oh, but it's still only on the top level thing. Well, what if we did a selection on here? That's still in range. And here we go again. Timeline, population. So we just dropped this index thing entirely. We don't. I had a function that was fraction of range overlap, and that's kind of what we've got here. It was specific to some other things. So it's something like that. Oh, this was so this was relative to a span. So this is gonna kinda care. The percent overlap of what? We're currently using this. As min-max there. Wait. That's the start and end of the world. Which was the first argument. Oh, your POSIX. How did we do length end minus... Oh, that's that end minus start. Oh, that's a record width. I know this is the... Oh, I'm looking at total. And that is... So that's the second argument here. I think it's actually going to be... Wait, min... no, you need to change your type. If range overlap... yeah. More parentheses. And I think we just dropped this. Okay, so you're showing it, and if we do a small selection out of you, then they're both showing it. Okay. Can we tell whether we did this based on... Oh, you know what? These things are setting this range now. I can barely even see that selection range, huh? Oh, no, this is the old selection range, basically. Hmm. So that range would be useful for like a lineage search. It would... And we're sending that as a data layer. Do we just have to keep track of whether we should ignore the... Ignore the response? Also, is this something we could conditionally do here? It's just min and max for set data layers. We could pass something through there to say if we request it or not. Is min and max something we keep? Legend control gets it. Data overlay gets it. Well, I guess it needs that for color coding. It's not necessarily representing the slide range. So this is all just data layer message. Which we send, well, no data layer. That's visible, visible. So lineage lives. Gosh, what were the screen adjustment commands? Without moving cursor. I don't know what the mnemonics for those are. Move current line to the middle of the screen. Move current line to the bottom of the screen. I mean, we've moved to this point, but... So that's probably Well, that's a blank case. Okay, let's lineage. And that's straight up. We got a data layer from a general search. Could that be from multiple causes? This is not doing a case-sensitive search. Fetch recent lives, fetch data layer. Okay, so this is a completely default search. So we kind of don't care about you. We have fetch up to, we have fetch between, fetch data for time, model.time range. So that would be the function of the time bar. This is for things that need the current time, which are going to be based on, which these things are going to happen here. I'll fetch up to. Daily review. Well, that's fine. That can set the time. So this is the case we would want to not override. And all this stuff is the same. Well, how about the arguments we send these? Start end model, model dot is common, selected server is, that's a server ID. There's something else particularly interesting about you. Wait, this was if we have a model.time range. Okay. So there's a little bit of asynchrony there, but we can test for that. Although that's just in this section. There are other things that come back. Are they fetch data layer? Yeah, these things, which are, well, this one is one of those consequent cases that only happens in that case. This is the one we use daily. We expect this to We expect this to set the range. Although it's a start to now. I could set the range directly. So maybe when we fetch data, we have to say, we have to either update the model with the time range that is appropriate for that data. So fetch up to time. It has a start time, it has an end time, so that's going to be the time range of interest. And let's see, so you're updating model, you're updating model. You are only doing a command. I could I could arrange to do a self command. I could have a separate thing. Let's see. I could have a separate thing that says give me the data range. I could have a leaflet command to say send it to me. I would still have to track when to send that though. It would have to get sent after the data. So it seems like the easiest thing is to pass a flag through fetch that goes into the message that comes back and says, oh yeah, for this one, we'd also like to request leaflet to send us a data range back. We could update our model with whether we want to use the range that gets sent back, which seems could have some synchron issues there. Wait, that can't be. Okay, you're a subfunction that does things depending. I hate just adding more arguments to things. But we use this function a bunch, and it's a little bit messy. I guess I could pass the message I want back. Except the server ID is going to be redundant. Well, if I put it before server ID, then that could be an implied argument. How much happens on data layer? A bunch. So I wouldn't necessarily want to actually do a separate message there. Oh, could I have my population thing? Right now it doesn't deal with remote data aspect of things. Now when it was just the data, I could see this sort of being a wrapper. Well, no, we could do a remote data map on it. Would JSON decode be an appropriate thing to have in here? All right, are we at rest? We are at rest. I haven't had to depend on JSON before. Oh, actually, it was JSON to decode here. You're actually going to be remote data of value? You're not a remote data yet. Well, this is a JSON decode error. So I'm already in the results side. Although something that just took a result, well, I can look at that. If there'd be a way to take care of that error case. That's probably gonna be too much. It's transforming this thing into this thing. And this would be a closer map. And then this can be done by a remote data map. Alright, so that turns this into remote data.json decode of decode.lives of value no your lineage. Oh, this is a very, very similar thing though. And then you are remote data.map of okay, no, that was lives into list.map my life. Okay, this is where it was lives instead of like value. Only place we use it, so really you could probably do something like that. Remote data.json decode. Soft population. You're not that. You are remote data. Dot map population. And you were just a value. Failed. Data layer. Yeah, this is setting both data and population, so this is not the kind of thing we could easily handle with a generic remote data of result. I mean, there might be a place for it elsewhere. Oh, it would be because like passing decoders and things. That would allow us to capture the error, though. The data layer would just be like a constant map or something. We could have it receive a result to a failed error or to a data value, and then you would map it over. And then a remote data would be JSON decode of a remote data value instead of a value, which we could do very easily just by making it a data value and using remote data.map, or turning JSON decode into a map type operation. So that would take care of. Actually, those would both be maps. They would both get the same error. The big difference would be we wouldn't have the log. Okay, we're getting an error here because of cores. Network error. If that succeeded and we had some other error, we wouldn't have a notice of that. I could have like a remote data map error. Which would only do something on failed. Error. Log HTTP error. Remote data. Right, it's packaging the JSON into an HTTP error. So you could, if we added a map error, you could then stick your log on that. Data layer population. Technically, we only rebuild timelines in the success case. Oh, and then there's this batch with value here. So that's not yet a really strong case. There might be other cases where that would be. Failed error, log error. Yeah, and then we do command batches based on if we got it or not. So we do really have to handle that differently. Is it http.error? No, it was JSON. It's remote data. We removed code that looked like http.badbody. That's actually doing some kind of similar stuff. But there's a result.map error. Result dot and then. Oh, this is a parser actually, which stays in result. So we've got a bunch of parser stuff. This is HTTP resolver. This doesn't deal with remote data though. This does feel like a result, even though it's okay error. What was this for? Oh, this is a resolver is a hook into HTTP because it's HTTP dot. Oh, maybe I had to do this to make, maybe a task has to use a resolver. So this is just kind of filling in default functionality. In the case where we simulate slow, oh, we only did this for one thing. Oh, this is the reordering stuff actually. Huh. Okay, so there doesn't seem to be any more of those remote data things of that particular style. Or remote data in decode. There was some remote data in parse, I guess. Oh, we're actually doing this on... On the expect side. But I wasn't parsing the values before, and now I'm only parsing them. I'm using the value and I'm using the parsed data. So having it decode here actually isn't what we want. Dead ends to string. Okay, so I've got a module that has a couple of these things in it. Result.map, map error. Okay, and then we do some further things on these. This one doesn't. So it's not quite a generic function. Okay, so it was data, no, we need leaflet.data layer, right? No, things that come back on data layer. Do I handle, right. Lineage searches, no, lineage searches come back separately. They use leaflet.data layer, but they don't go through this message. So that makes it a little bit more tractable to duplicate this. The, I guess the error handling is one of the biggest there. Oh, this is a transparent effect, so it has kind of, so it just kind of disappears over that. Interesting. Data layer equals server ID, population. So we add a parameter to the fetch function to add a parameter, or maybe just it's the message and we pass with or without the flag. So when that comes back, we say this was a request that wanted to know, or that already knew what its range should be. This is a request that didn't, so we'd like Leaflet to tell us. Wait, We're scanning population. The data range we want for the search results. Oh, what about... Yeah, Eves only isn't going to be right for this. Right, we shut down our server. It's another thing we have to consider. Do I have to, like, keep... I guess we could have the request range flag. No, this isn't just range. This is, like, that should disable population graph entirely. Why is my second start always borked? Maybe there wasn't enough range. We might have a very, very small range here. Yeah, so this is like the population of Eves, which is... This is like the number of Eves on the map? Although this doesn't seem accurate, because this kind of says... I don't know, 1, 2. Okay, so the ramp here... Yeah, it never goes to 0, and that sounds a little borked. Oh, I wonder if there were crashes in here. So we never got the deaths. Yeah, the actual data has actual population stats. I might have to move over to that. No, it's birth population and death population. I guess I have to include both. Both samples. Yeah, there must have been some crashes in there. Although the population of Eves is actually kind of fascinating. So potentially there could also be like a flag in here that's like, hey, we're doing Eves. We don't even, population isn't even valid. Population valid. No, this is just what kind of range we used. Do we need to get the range from the data or not? So if we used a time range to fetch, we want to keep it. Is what it comes down to. There's the check the model and see if we have a time range thing, but there are a couple, yeah, there are times when we, one of the solutions to that is take all of those things. Oh, right. So you could, and you could, and you would leave it alone. And the stickler is these things where we're only returning a command. And we, well, in this case, we don't have a time range. This, the thing I don't like about this is it depends on this like asynchronous state stuff. To understand the interaction of the time, when we get data back, we would say, do we have a time range? A lot of operations would set the time range before calling this. And there's this kind of dependency. So if we're fetching data for a range, I actually should be setting it in most cases. If we're in a model.time mode and we're using that, should we be setting range? Actually, we kind of do some of that now. So you should totally be setting it, and you should totally be setting it. Get relative. We have time. We have start. That actually has start and end. Some of these might actually be overfetching, and that would just kind of leave you with dead time, because that would be like fetch till now, but there's no data after a certain time. And that's not interesting. So we pass it through there, so it comes back on the message, so that we do or do not ask Leaflet to send us the data range. I might want to, let's see, is that the only place we do that? Oh, map. Set data layers. Yes, so probably you would return. Well, this has the if, min, and max. Because I could return it and then do the conditional in that handler. All right, so is that... I guess you just add an argument. So data layer. So this is just a bool, but what does data layer true, data layer false mean? Most other stuff moved to model, but this is just messages which only get used here. Well, now wait a minute. If we're doing population, I mean, I'm gonna have to consider like what the min and the max were, but that means we just get that in the data layer call. So this is the min and the max of birth time and death time. So in the plus minus, okay, so that actually, I might need to redesign the population data structure to handle this better. Also, I'm specifically looking at birth times and death times, so that could have some weird effects. So once we've sorted all our... should we truncate before we sort? No. We said we had to do cumulative before we sort, right? Population. So there's a point at which we've summed and have not removed entries. I can theoretically get the last timestamp there, but I guess it's another iteration. We could get the min before doing that. This is the last birth, which is what we need for you. I guess I could accumulate both things. So instead of just being like start end, you're like, I guess we'd kinda. Oh, wait. So at this point, the data is in ascending birth order, not ascending death order. Or not. Deaths can kind of be wherever from there. For like first event and last event, we'd kind of have to wait until cumulative sum, which does the sort. Or we individually min-max the fields. I guess if we could spare an iteration, that'd be good. So we have the first birth, which is going to be the first record. We have the last birth, which is that current max. I guess first death isn't that interesting. We have the... It's like you might have a birth that died right away. We have the, accurate population period, which could even be a parameter here that just says never. eaves or something. So first birth, I mean, we should probably call them like, first birth. What do you call graph start, graph end? For when population is reasonably accurate. And the last, first birth, last event, it really should be first event, right? Event range, population range. Then when we want to do that, so data range would still need to get the flag for what was requested. But after getting population, able to do that directly without having a leaflet send data range at all. Did I do anything else with data range? Map time. Is that constraining map time to be in that range? That is a set time range. And with command none. Oh, that was our play trigger. So that'd have to move up. All right, so population record. So the only place we used this there was an no, it's technically the overlap check here. I don't actually know if I use start and end. I just kind of give it the data for the graph. If range overlap, so it could be a range. That's how we're using it. I mean, this is like, it's the accurate population range. Accurate-ish. All right, so we can sort of bootstrap this. Hmm. So what are we, I guess graph range is really, or the population range, what we'd be checking the overlap of. And then event range is what we would use if we were checking, if we were grabbing the range from that. From there. Pop dot population range. Oh. You don't have a field name. Here's your tuple. Okay. So now we have POSIX to millis. I guess I don't need you as there. So first event, first event, first event, and then min equals first event. I say, so this is an iteration. We'd rather not do too much. All right, so our accumulator is going to be this has already been converted to births and deaths, individual events. We have data. It was delta. Births and deaths accumulator. And we need to return an accumulator. Not births and deaths, births and events. And that could be done as pairs. It was a birth, so it's T, and that's always T, else. So we don't care what you were. But now you're a pair. Timed up POSIX to millis. All right, and so min and max. All right, so event range is first event to last event. Population range, I guess since we're using those to filter, it's probably best for consistency to do that. Keyword in next. Uh-oh. Right, we're gonna add a thing around that, then we didn't. Right, this was delta. I was gonna end up using D for death, but it's starting to get confusing. All right, that's only a partial solution. All right, so that does what it did before. So we still have to track that. No. So there's still asynchronicity in the request. But I think we still need to track if we want to get the range from the data or not. And I guess this would give us type data range. I guess that's legal. All right, and then data layer. Gets very messy. All right, you don't care. All right, so we could patch this by saying that. Oh, find recent. Yes, you are going to be data range. Okay, and then I guess you don't have to be a message because this isn't just a bool. It'll still be kind of clear what's going on. Start time, end time. Argument list a mile long. I could actually put the server ID range source in the same order. All right, now we've got half a dozen of these things. you get it from there, you get it from there. You get predetermined range. These are commands. So we can't like update the model or anything, even though we're kind of querying for specific things. I cannot find Saurus. Tyrannosaurus, Brontosaurus, Rangesaurus. And then this takes over all of the data layer message stuff, which somehow didn't collide. Is it not data range? Oh, because it was probably already leaflet.data range. Yes. Which is down in the leaflet response area. This was the network response area. So if it was predetermined, everything is kind of fine. We don't even have min-max yet. We get a min-max if there's data in population. Oof. This is almost like a secondary update function. It kind of depends on the model, and it can well, the model is only updating map time beyond what set time range does. It's only a model update. Should set time range do that constraint? Maybe not. If we were scrubbing down here and it was there. So you can send a whole bunch of commands. So this might want to be a function that's like range from population. And then we just kind of tack that onto here. Oh, but it sends commands, so we actually have to tack it onto here. And we've got an update combinator for that. Whole thing is conditional on if there's something in there. We could have a remote data of a model command update pair. We kind of have to say if data, then we can do all of this stuff. So you don't actually need to be a let block then if we're outsourcing this, just for the sake of this already being kind of a big function. Rebuild timelines got outsourced to model. Are you here? No, you're a model function. It's not here. What do we have that looks kind of like this? Rebuild worlds, update monuments, check default center. Rebuild arcs. This kind of deals with some time stuff. Jump time, scrub time. Life range if visible. I guess it's kind of in this stuff, but that's range. Population for time. Maybe set time. No. Server update. Population for time, maybe set time. This thing more with the time stuff than range stuff. So this is a model to update that set range for data. So this depends on the population. And this entire thing is if we have data. Almost a shame you don't do your own combinator, because it's just going to be a no-op. So min max. Do we ever use? Min and max, no. This is just pop dot event range. Indent off. Okay, and then we had add update. A model to model command message to the previous update thing. Yes. I should probably remember to use markers. I always forget about that. So this sets the data layer. I guess I could do this as an add command too. Oh, this is a conditional add. Uh, and this is not a function that can just be an identity as a fallback. Upstream can be identity. All right, so if we do this, we get that. If we do, that's probably way the heck too wide. A couple of days, maybe not. Okay, no. No, it's still thinking. This was the previous run. Oh, is this actually crunching the pot? Well, I guess Leaf would have to crunch it too. Okay, so it is the request. Response has been truncated, so yeah, so this is actually the JavaScript. I don't know if it is the leaflet side or the... I guess the Elm side is the newer thing, and I think it handled this before. Are you pausing me? Okay, I can't pause. The only thing I could do is just not set population, I guess. And see if that's it. Oh, script terminated. Okay, so it does. Oh. I wonder if it's charts. Yeah. Charts doesn't handle very large numbers that well. Okay. So this is really really is a display concern. I think we were doing several thousand before. All right, so basic case, fine. Too much data? I guess I should probably be printing this out somewhere. Exactly what my count is. One way to handle this would be to say, well, we're not really going to have more data points than pixels on the screen. That depends a little. I mean, yeah, I could pick a subsampling based on a maximum reasonable screen width. Okay, so we know that we're in. No, that's not what's here. That's still very, very large, though. Okay, graph did not draw, so that wasn't really a test of that. I guess I need to try and find where it does draw. I didn't really test it before. Error? It's obviously a lot of data. Oh, that wasn't a significantly different window. Oh, that might actually be hitting the server limit. Huh. It seems like an odd number to be the server limit, though. Yeah, it just has to be server limit. Error? Did I lazy something out here? Get out, get out, get out of my way. Oh, is it so small that I can't actually drag over it? Can I not do drags on timeline data? Or on population data? Okay, well now we have another bug. Okay, that is small. And it shows data. Oh, and this has been reselected to here, so actually we're in this space now. Okay. So let's try two of these. Okay, 6,000. 9,000. Definitely feeling the burn. Okay, 13,000. Still showing. Hmm. It's probably because I'm actually changing our time while we're doing this, which I thought I tried not to do. 20,000. We're churning, we're churning, we're churning, we're churning. It handled it. Okay, I didn't get the drag there. Man, I'm not even responding. Oh, no, we did. And I thought that shouldn't have been causing redraws. Certainly seems like something might break down around that time. Uh, that's ratios. I need actual resolutions. Resolution width. No, that's too constrained. Monitor max width. Maximum supported resolution. Okay, well, let's just pick, what's a 4K resolution? In television and consumer media, 38. Movie projection, 4096. So there's no reason for the graph data to have over 4,000 entries. Okay, so we have to do the cumulative sum in that space. We have to truncate. Those are timestamps, so they're fine. So this is like a resample. This is going to be over two-dimensional data. We do have to deal with the timestamps. So it's going to be kind of specific to that. Unless we did a transform on it first. I guess put the target in here. Okay, so we have length is list.length of input. We're going to have some kind of, let's see, do we need a floating point accumulator? We could just have a cut here. So we don't have to deal with the ones that are smaller. If we counted on very, very large integers, we might be able to do just bouncing ints. Ooh, we have to do an accumulator. Yeah, this might be kind of fold. And maybe this thing is its own accumulator. No, then our end would just kind of fall if we had this. So this has to be at least two functions. Is this a fold? If it's a fold left, then it's a... I need to reverse it, I think. No, or is it fold right that's efficient, and then you reverse it? And it does one, does two, and then that will build it up in reverse order. Okay, so we get... a function, we get a base state, which we need an accumulator, and we need the list. And we get the sample, which we need to care about the t. We just need to maintain the data. We get our accumulator and our output. Oh, actually, I guess I can go plus and minus. I don't have to do continuous accumulation. So if cum, let's see, so I forget how this works. If we're going to downsample, we have, 100,000 entries, we want 4,000. So we want to skip for several steps. So a cum plus target samples. If next is now greater than length, then we've accumulated enough to include a sample. And actually, we're not comparing these. It's just samples. We're just doing the integer. Oh, we need to do next minus length to make sure we don't overflow anything. I guess you could probably be equal. Okay, that could be in input else. Is that just the indent? Oh, no, we missed it then. Target samples. Oh, I need to tuple that second. Okay, and then we take u, and then we resample u to arbitrary value. And then we'll see that on the view side down here. Data 4096. Yeah, I'm still thinking. Yep. That's after cumulative sum. Maybe over this period it was rising? That seems suspect, though. That can't be right. But we should have already produced sums, which means we're just cutting data out. Oh, does this not work if we already have data visible? Oh, that popped us into daily review, I guess. So this still seems reasonable. Really? We originally had that many there? In one day? Oh, just barely. I do want to check subsample though. Oh yeah, okay, so 2000, that should be fine. Neo, why do we go bonkers over long periods? Because we should have already resolved this to the actual population. Um, oh, we know how long it's going to be right now, right? List dot drop 4,000. Okay, so yes, it's showing up as a tiny little bit. Drop's the beginning, right? Oh, do I not need to reverse this? I mean, it still has a direction to it. That's not right. It should already be sorted. These numbers don't seem out of place. Okay, so I guess it was near the kind of kind of near the top, the bottom, and the top. Are we doing translation in the view side? That I forgot about. Okay, so this should not even be an issue now. That's monuments. If they're there. Points are straight in. Min and max are the timeline. Tuple dot first. Tuple dot second. POSIX to millis. POSIX to millis. To float. What the heck are you doing here, charts? Okay, so by the time it gets here, Maybe something weird's going on here. Oh, we did a thing that auto searched. Okay. So that's a standard situation. This is actually borked data, and this looks fine. What if... What if... we resample smaller? I mean, maybe my resample is just busted, but... that is mostly high. It might not be enough to... but this isn't the wide time. Yeah, that definitely has that upward... Do I not need the reverse? I mean, that shouldn't affect... I mean, they're timestamps. Yeah, they are reversed. Okay, but yes, that is definitely incrementing. So it's cutting it down to the right number. Are we somehow sorting on population? So we're getting the maximum value over the period? Should be that the only sort we do. Are we somehow getting our accumulator instead of... well, if we go over larger periods, we'll also get... no, this was thousands. We're still kind of in... oh, maybe we're accumulating server crashes. Which is where we have to go back to the raw data. Okay. And now, for some reason... so this would have existed in... even in the unresolved or undownsampled data. We saw it a little bit in the eaves. Yeah. Uh, we might even, well, it would be kind of a meta-analysis to figure out when server crashes are and actually mark those. And probably truncated spans would be one indication. So for this to work, we have to actually do some server work, but this is apparently, well, I guess might not be Chart's fault. It's trying to do SVGs. SVGs are per element per segment of the line. We could sample this better if we used the exact width, but then I'd have to keep around the original data. To resample it again. And so that's, is it worth it? Oh, and then the whole resample thing actually was a secondary issue to our original problem. Well, it was the performance issue of trying this out. I mean, I could probably pull that out pretty easy, but pop with eaves is, as long as you understand it's just eaves. So population over server restarts. It really crashes because we don't get the deaths. Which kind of gets bumped back to server work. All right, so this is part of this. All right, so this is we don't know. This is, well, it's part of the other data type. If no pop data available, we were having some range selection issues earlier. I guess it was just because there was too much data. Oh, this might not zoom well, but oh well. So in theory, you could keep the original data and then prepare a downsample. For each view. That would not be in the population data, though. That would have to be a timeline thing when we did the timeline. Now, resample is like the last thing we do. And that does get called when we re-render. I guess that would make it kind of maybe a little bit expensive when we're resizing. Timeline. This is going to change when the timeline changes, so I guess it's going to be, it's going to break lazy no matter what. All right, so you're fine. That's pretty small, so that kind of makes sense. Okay, you can kind of tell when there are periods of restarts, I guess. But the question was, if we start zooming this in, eh, that's still pretty flat. Of course, that might just be because our graph range is so compressed. I would have expected more there, though. Oh no, this is all population. We haven't truncated this to the range for the timeline. So that's work. But we're kind of passing that off to the graphing library to, well, that does give us comparable scales, which is kind of nice. But it's zero based, so probably that'll work out. Something like this would just end up at the top. Hmm. Hmm. All right, so this does range maintenance, resample optimization. Yeah, the restarts are unfortunate because for the daily stuff works fine. Kind of hoping to avoid server changes. But it's lunchtime, and that's what I'm usually on. That's it for today. Thanks for support from subscribers, and have a good day. Until next time.